We here in the Wisconsin media had a chance to have a little sit down with Rhys Hoskins, the newest member of the Milwaukee Brewers, him along with Matt Arnold. I'll tell you what he said and how excited he is becoming a member of the Milwaukee Brewers. All that ahead, coming up next here on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good to have you along here. Rhys Hoskins. Yeah. Matt Arnold even alluded to, he didn't know if he was going to be able to sign a player of this caliber. Little scary to think that and hear that. We'll talk about all that coming up here as Rhys Hoskins officially joins the Brewers. We'll break down the contract, tell you about that when he becomes a free agent and what the options are and how he feels about hitting in hitter-friendly AmFam Field. All that coming up here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book for a reason. You know, FanDuel's got it all for you. Make every moment more. New customers get $150. Wow, they upped it. $200 now. They upped the ante. $200 in bonus bets. If your first live bet is a $5 bet or more and it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. We'll talk more about that a little bit later on here in the episode. Wow. $200. I thought $150 was good enough, but $200 for FanDuel. All right, Rhys Hoskins. We had a kind of conference call with Rhys Hoskins today on the Wisconsin media. Here's the breakdown of his contract. According to the Associated Press, who I also work for, Rhys Hoskins, he's going to make $12 million in 2024. 2024, $12 million. And he can opt out of that contract. If he feels like he wants to walk away, puts up a big year, he can walk out of that contract. Or he can opt in for the next year, which is $18 million, with the Brewers having a chance at a $4 million buyout. If they don't like what they bought with Rhys Hoskins, they can opt out, give him $4 million, send him on his way. I doubt that's going to happen, but they have the option of doing that. And then there's a mutual option for 2026 if it gets that far. $18 million with a $4 million option. Rhys could say, yeah, I want in. Brewers say no. And here's the $4 million buyout. With injuries, who knows? But the chances are, I mean, that looks pretty friendly for the Milwaukee Brewers. Maybe they buy it out and they sign him long-term, which is even more surprising. But let's do it 1 year at a time. Like I said the other day, $12 million, 2024 for an opt-out at the end of the season. God, $12 million for a guy like Rhys Hoskins? I think this contract is Brewer-friendly. It is. Now, a little bit later on, I'll tell you about how General Manager Matt Arnold didn't think he'd be able to sign a player of Hoskins' salary or caliber. God, we got to get out of that way of thinking. I don't like hearing that at all. But Jim Guhart, real solid on Twitter, promotes our show. Jim Guhart made a good point. With the Brewers would not have been able to sign him have not they made the Coleman Crow trade. And the trade was they got rid of the salaries of Tyrone Taylor and Adrian Hauser. We said at the time, too, well, by dumping those two players basically for nothing, if Coleman Crow ever even plays or even pitches an inning with the Brewers, they dumped two salaries. Would there be a corresponding move? We said this at the time. And this could be it right here. Maybe the Brewers thought that, okay, if we're going to sign a free agent, we're going to pay someone north of $12, $15 million a year, we're going to have to dump two salaries. Again, disappointing. That's the way the Brewers have to operate, but this is maybe where they had to go for budget reasons, that they had to dump Tyrone Taylor and Adrian Hauser. So you could say that they've traded Tyrone Taylor and Hauser in essence, not really, but traded salaries, dump salaries to be able to afford this contract. And I'm okay with that if that's what it takes. I don't like having to think that way, but okay, if that's the route we're going to have to go, to sign a player like Hoskins, who they're going to put down in the first base, and he's going to be just great over there. Now, we got in this conference call with Rhys, who was at his home, and he had, 20 minutes, a conversation we had with him. Good guy off the front, going to fit right in with the Milwaukee Brewers. And he talked about coming here because of the culture. The Brewers have always been able to create a great, win or lose, a real good culture in that locker room. Now, there's been a couple of guys who've tried to threaten that culture. We won't name those guys, but there's been a few guys in the past who've tried to threaten it. But for the most part, this team and Craig Counsell, and I know he's the enemy now, but he did create a good culture. And it's up to the players to create a culture. And Rhys talked about that and a chance to win in Milwaukee. He said he wanted to go with a chance to win in Milwaukee, and that is what the Brewers do give him. Now, one of the first things he was asked about the knee, the strength of the knee. He says, Rhys says, we'll map out a plan once I get to spring training with the physicians, and I'm sure we'll take it slow. But he says, I expect by that first preseason, that first exhibition game, we'll be 100% in, and there should be no limitations, he said. So that's good. Yeah, you're going to have to take it slow. You haven't played ball in a year, and understandably, there's going to be some limitations in the beginning, so you have no setback. But he feels he's ready to go, and that is good to hear. So anybody, and this is coming from him, anybody who's had doubts or anything about the knee, I don't think any of us really have, but expects to be full go with the injury. He also talked about Milwaukee being a paper fit. He looked at it and, first base, a paper fit for him. And certainly it is. Certainly a paper fit for him. The Brewers needed him. Spent 10 years with the Philly organization. He's going to be missed there. And the Brewers are coming back there in early June. And for the first game back, the Philly fans have bought up a lot of tickets to see the return of Rhys Hoskins. That's how much of an impact he made with the people in Philly. And, in Philly, if you're a warrior like he is, okay, people are going to love you. And we're going to love him in Milwaukee too. I have a good feeling. We're not going to want to see him go anywhere else. And we're going to love Rhys Hoskins, no matter if he's playing first base or DH. Nobody really asked him about that today. But, I'm sure he's going to be splitting some time. That's more or less a Pat Murphy question once spring training opens up. But he says all the expectations, I'll be ready to go for spring training. Did play 10 years with the organization, minors, and with the parent team. But he also talked about always hitting well in Milwaukee. And he feels comfortable with the batter's eye, the background at AmFam Field, the way he's able to hit. And let's face it, Rhys is going to use, and I have no problem with this. He didn't say this, but if you kind of read everything, maybe using Milwaukee, a hitter's ballpark, to help get his career back on track. He called Milwaukee a sleepy town. I don't have any problem with that. Said it's underrated by most of Major League Baseball, underrated. And there's that stigma that comes with Milwaukee. Oh, God, who wants to play in Milwaukee? But I feel when players come here, dating back to CC Sabathia, they kind of love Milwaukee. Being here, great fan base. You're going to have big crowds for the most part, weekends, weekdays. You're going to have good crowds. People are passionate about the Milwaukee Brewers. And who wouldn't want to play under that type of atmosphere? Now, back in the 90s, we didn't have that here. Let's face it, we didn't. We didn't have that here. This didn't start till maybe the mid-2000s. Okay? And we've had some tough times, but the fans really started supporting this team. And you got to give them a winning product. Don't take the fans for granted. But I feel like Rhys, he's not going to come out and say this, but he comes up here and puts up big numbers for 2024, and he's got that option, opt-out year. Well, if he uses the opt-out, I'm not worried about that. If he uses the opt-out and goes somewhere else, okay, we have Rhys for 1 year. I don't care. The fact that we got him for one season, and it's up to the Brewers to step up to the plate if he has a big year to re-sign him and keep him here. This is on the Milwaukee Brewers to meet the market demands that a guy like Rhys Hoskins is going to demand if he has a big year. Yeah, coming to AmFam Field. Could he put up 35, 40 home runs? Absolutely could. A guy with that talent. He feels very comfortable. So if Rhys, you're looking at this, why wouldn't anybody of his caliber? Boy, I'm coming off the year. I didn't get the numbers from the free agent market that I was hoping to get. I knew that coming off the injury, but hey, here's Milwaukee, where I've always hit well. I love hitting there. Small sample size, but I love hitting there. I feel comfortable hitting there. If I go to Milwaukee on a team that's, could contend, if I go there, put up some big numbers, what would I command on the free agent market, right? If you're anybody like that who's looking to bounce back off an injury in a contract year, per se, why wouldn't you come to Milwaukee Hitters Ballpark? Put up some big numbers here. Yeah. In addition to playing for the fan base, the organization, the team, good manager, contender every year for the most part in recent years. Yeah. Milwaukee would be an easy choice for anybody like that. A guy like Rhys Hoskins. He's not going to say again, well, yeah, I'm coming to Milwaukee to get my numbers up and then look out. I don't care. We'd have him for 2024. Rhys puts up big numbers. The team pitches well, and the bats around him have a big year. Yeah, we're going to have another big year contending for the division title and maybe beyond. But I'm not worried about anything but 2024. $12 million for 2024 and opt out after that. I'm all in on Rhys Hoskins. Come here, baby, put up some big numbers and let the chips fall where they may. Chuck Freimund here on Locked On Brewers. Coming up, we'll talk more about what Arnold had to say about the signing. All that coming up here next on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Hey, you know what? A big controversy in our house is always who is going to make dinner? What are we going to have for dinner? You know, it's she and I here, basically empty nesters, living in our house. And, I got a 12-year-old running around. But for the most part, what are we going to do with dinner? I got a great solution and a resolution for you all. It's called Factor. You ready for the new year? Factor's ready to eat meal delivery, takes the stress out of meal planning, sets you up for success for the new year. Skip the grocery stores. God, I hate grocery shopping. The prep work, the cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door with over 35 meals to choose for each week. Options like keto, calorie smart, vegan, veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons. You'll have a ton of nutritious, flavorful options to kickstart your solutions, 2-minute meals. Skip the overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious than takeout. Again, these meals will come right to your door. They're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you. You don't have to spend the time in the kitchen. Shannon, I know after work, a hard day's work, does not want to have to come and cook her boy Freems a 5-course meal. No, she doesn't want to have to do that. This is right up her alley. And special occasion meal, Gourmet Plus is the perfect solution if you're ready for fast upscale options. They're easily done. You just check off all the boxes on there. Not only does Factor offer fast, simple solutions, but hey, we're all too busy to cook. Protein Plus, keto, all the offerings there. Everything you need for a nutritious meal. In addition to ready-to-eat meals, they have cold-pressed juices, smoothies, energy bites, protein, veggie sides, whatever you need. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnMLB50. Use the promo code LockedOnMLB50 for 50%. Use that promo code LockedOnMLB50 at Factor Meals, Factor, Factor meals.com. 50% off right now. Give it a try. That is Factor. Chuck Freimund here. Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Great to have you along with us. As always, you download us on Google, Spotify, Apple, all the major downloads. Go to YouTube. Search Locked On Brewers, everybody. Please search Locked On Brewers. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. We're ramping up to opening day and opening the doors of spring training a week, 2 weeks from Thursday. 2 weeks from Thursday, February 15th is the official opening day of spring training. Can you believe it? Man, this offseason has gone fast. It really has. Are you kidding me? 2 weeks from Thursday? And the doors open on Thursday, but you know there's going to be players there earlier, maybe by that weekend. So I would say we're less than 2 weeks away from spring training opening. First game is coming up on February 24th. All that good stuff, and we are ramping up here on Locked On Brewers. I'm fired up for the addition of Rhys Hoskins. We'll talk more about him next here on Locked On Brewers. Welcome back to Locked On Brewers. Your boy Chuck Freimund here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Matt Arnold said he didn't think he'd be able to get a player of Rhys's caliber. Again, is that a Brewers problem? That's a Brewers problem because it's a major league problem right now. Baseball will never solve it. We're not going to get into that. But the fact that the Brewers aren't able to get a player of that caliber in the free agent market, I don't like hearing that. But it's the reality of the situation where they can't fight the free agent market with everybody else. And a player like Rhys Hoskins at $12 million with the opt-out, that's the best they could do in free agency. Doesn't bode well when for all you who might be optimistic about re-signing Corbin Burns, I don't think that field is very big right now. Or to play in free agency down the road. Didn't think we'd be able to get a player of his caliber. Maybe I'm reading too much into that. But it's certainly, let's face it, that's the way it is. Rhys, as I said in the podcast a couple of days ago, the highest paid free agent the Brewers would have ever signed in the total amount of this contract, 2 years, 36, which averages about 2 years, 34 million, I should say, which averages about 17 million a year. And then you want to tack on 2026, which is another $18 million mutual option. The contract could be worth more than that. But hey, this is the kind of move that you have to make in baseball. We lost our connection for a second. This is the kind of move you have to make if you're the Milwaukee Brewers, going out and signing a player like this. So yeah, I want to be able to do moves like this in the future because there's not going to be any change in the financial structure of Major League Baseball. But man, I want to be able to make moves like this. I would love to make it another edition if we have to. We have to make it another. I don't know who's out, who we might be thinking of, but my God, we got third base on our hands right now. And signing a non-roster invitee like Christian Arroyo, yeah, a nice player, but we need better than that over at third base. Don't be telling me that. Surprised we're able to sign a player of this kind of caliber. I mean, we love Rhys Hoskins when he was at Philadelphia, but the Cooperstown isn't calling for him just yet. Okay. Rhys said that the Brewers were at the top of his list and not surprised. Well, the Brewers said he was at the top of his list and he liked Milwaukee. He liked everything about Milwaukee. Arnold was absolutely thrilled to get a player like this. The kind of player, obviously, they were looking for first base. They needed a guy like this at first base. You couldn't go into the season with what you had at first base right now, with all the respect to the options you had over there. Underwhelming would certainly be it. He's hit well in Milwaukee. You got him at a good price. And, let's enjoy him while we can. Rhys Hoskins, a member of the Milwaukee Brewers. What jersey is he going to wear? That controversy coming up next here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Chuck Freimund here on Locked On Brewers. Good to have you along, as always. And here at Locked On Brewers, I want to tell you about FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook for a reason. Super Bowl Sunday's coming up. You know all the props are going to be there on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Whatever you like. How about that? Who's going to score the first touchdown? Who's it going to be? Is it going to be George Kittle? McCaffrey? How about Kelsey? I looked into some pretty good odds there. check it out. Super Bowl's coming up in a couple of weeks, and of course, college football in full gear as well. And I told you about what they had going on at FanDuel. Join today and get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet is $5 or more and it wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. All the options are there. Live bets, they're there. Player props, they're there. Over and unders, and not only player props for the Super Bowl, which they have a ton, but player props for all sports. They're there. You want tennis? It's there. Okay, golf, it's there. FanDuel's the number one sports book because they have so many options and so many ways to do. And this $200 option, FanDuel.com/lockedon. Take advantage of the $200 in free bets when you win your first $5 bet. You can go and place a $5 bet on a $9,000 money line. And if it hits, $200 in bonus bets. FanDuel is America's number one sports book for a reason, because they have bonuses just like that, and they have all the options you want. Get in all the action, especially for the Super Bowl, all those great props. Christian McCaffrey scoring the first touchdown. I love that. That or him or Kelsey. I think those are some good odds. Come right back here on Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Chuck Freimund back here on Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Good to have you along. Get us on Google, Spotify, Apple, on all the major downloads. We are here for you, talking Brewers baseball here on Locked On Brewers. Okay, now the next controversy. There was a graphic put out by the Milwaukee Brewers with Jim Gantner wearing number 17. Now, I'm assuming the person who put that graphic out knows that number 17 has not been reissued since 1992. Worn by Jim Gantner. We'll talk about that in just a second. So, it showed a picture of Rhys slamming down his bat wearing a number 17 jersey, which he wore in Philadelphia, but the Brewers are not reissuing that because of Jim Gantner. So he's going to wear number 12 with the Brewers. So my question is, it's been 32 years since Jim Gantner's played baseball. We have not reissued that number 17. Number one, why haven't we retired that jersey? What are we waiting for? 32 years? From Eden, homegrown, played 17 seasons with the Milwaukee Brewers, I believe it was. Was never an all-star, steady second baseman. Why are we waiting for Jim Gantner to not be with us anymore before we retire that jersey? Do it while he's living. And I'm not saying, Jim is in his 70s. I'm not saying, he's going to be mortality anytime soon, but what are we waiting for? It's been 32 years. The Brewers will not reissue number 17, yet they would not give it to Rhys Hoskins. Oh, no, that's reserved for Jim Gantner. It's been 32 years. And a whole new generation is not going to even know who Jim Gantner is. They're obviously going to retire the jersey because they haven't reissued it. I just don't know what's taken them so long. So are we going to do it 20 years from now? When nobody's going to know who Jim Gantner? How about when guys like my generation are alive and kicking, we'll say, and I'm way younger than Jim. I'll just let you know that. But I grew up watching Jim Gantner play. So guys like me and a lot of you out there can appreciate, oh yeah, Jim Gantner ranging in the hole at third, at second most likely. Well, he played third, he played second, stealing base hits away. I remember those days. And Jim Gantner wasn't the greatest hitter of all time, but he was a solid player. So why you're either going to reissue that jersey or let's retire it real soon. And while guys like some of our generation can appreciate Gantner retired, because if you're retired at 20, 30 years from now, and it's been 32 years, that generation is going to say, oh, Jim Gantner, who cares? That's what they're going to say, because they will have no recollection of Jim Gantner at all. As it stands, you've waited too long to retire his jersey. So either reissue number 17, start reissuing it, or quit delaying this so long and let's move on. But come on. I think It's great that they haven't reissued it, but it's a little disrespectful that they have waited this long, 32 years since he's last played, and you haven't reissued the jersey. Jim Gantner's number deserves to be retired and do it while he's living, while all of us are living. And that's going to do it for me, Chuck Freimund. Thank you, all you everydayers, for following us along on Twitter. Chuck Freimund, Freimund. Follow me along. Please, our growing YouTube page, Locked On Brewers. Go to YouTube, search Locked On Brewers. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode. And by all means, please hit me up on Google, Spotify, Apple. We're on all the major downloads. We're the number one Brewer podcast on the internet for a reason, because of you, great Brewers fans out there. Doug Russell's going to join me Wednesday here on the show. Doug Russell will join us Wednesday here on the show as we ramp up the spring training. Enjoy the Rhys Hoskins signings. He had some good things to say about Milwaukee. Sleepy Milwaukee. We're great to have him here. We love him here. He's going to do good things. He's going to hit 35 home runs in 2024. Minimal. We'll come right back on Wednesday, everybody. This is Chuck Freimund, Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day.